Hi there, my name is Ria. I am a wedding and event planner. I've been doing this for about 9 years, and I love to share tips and tricks and behind the scenes that you might not typically hear on the wedding planning process from a wedding vendor. So just by way of a little introduction, I started in this industry back in 2016. Prior to starting my own business, I had not worked with any vendors or worked in the wedding industry. I simply had helped a couple friends with their weddings and thought, you know what, I like this. I need to change jobs, so why not give this a shot? It's not exactly the route that I would recommend to take to start in the wedding industry or any business in general, but it did work out. And I would say that one advantage of not having worked with anyone prior to starting my own business is I came in with pretty fresh eyes. The advantage of this is that I really dedicated myself to learning how the industry worked from the perspective of the different vendors rather than just how it works from a wedding planner's perspective. And I really appreciate this because it allows me to create an experience that serves the needs of the clients by taking into account what the different vendors need to serve the clients best. So I can kind of take all of the vendors as a whole and create something that really works to the advantage of the client. In addition to the business experience that I gained in the wedding industry, I also met my husband through a wedding. He was a photographer and I was the coordinator in the summer of 2017. So we have had the advantage of working together as a couple and enjoyed that. And now he's moved on to a different job. But I have continued doing weddings with a short sabbatical in there post-COVID. But I've been back at it for the last few months now. What I wanted to talk about today was backyard weddings and how to plan a successful backyard wedding. In this region, it's a fairly rural area, and so we do have a fair number of backyard weddings. And I think that one of the common misconceptions with a backyard wedding, as people are looking at their options for the type of wedding that they want to plan, is that a backyard wedding is cheaper or quote unquote simpler than a wedding at a venue. And it can be, but most times I find that backyard weddings are probably about on par with your average venue wedding. And the reason for this is because you are building out a venue essentially. And so you're needing to bring in a lot of pieces that a venue already has on site. And these costs add up pretty quickly. It also isn't simpler in the planning process because of this. As well as obviously the setup and tear down. It really isn't simpler than a venue wedding. However, they do hold their place as a viable wedding. Just because it might not check the box of cheaper or simpler doesn't mean that a backyard wedding can't be great. If you're someone who has a property that you really want to feature and invite your family and friends to for your wedding, then absolutely this is a great option. And I just want to talk through some of the ways that you can make that not only a streamlined planning process, but something that will truly bring you pleasure to host your family and friends and make that vision happen. So before you get too deep into planning your backyard wedding, you'll want to make sure that your property has access to rental companies and caterers and other vendors. I have worked some weddings that were so remote that it was difficult to get rental companies to deliver for a reasonable rate. And we had difficulty getting vendors like caterers. You'll want to do your research on how close you are to these resources. Also, you'll want to make sure that your property is accessible to delivery trucks and buses, some of those larger vehicles, that you have adequate parking, and make sure that you don't have restrictions on the type of vehicles that can access your property. So basically what you're looking for is you're looking to apply all of the basic rules of hosting. You want to make sure that you have food, drink, restrooms, entertainment, a comfortable space for your guest, All of those things, the basic human needs that you need to meet for your guest. So just for quick notes on that, I would never recommend doing the catering yourself, either food or beverage service. Instead, I would recommend getting a licensed caterer who has the capacity to serve the number of guests that you have coming. I would definitely recommend that you source a vendor who has experience with working weddings and holding to the type of schedule that you'll need to follow for your wedding. In consideration for the catering service, you'll need to make sure that they have ample prep area, access to power, refrigeration, and access to water. As far as restrooms go, I know that you could just provide like construction site porta potties. However, there are much better options out there, and I would completely recommend spending the extra money on a restroom trailer. For one thing, they offer climate control in there. There's the odor control. There's the basic comfort of just having a clean space for your guest, a place where they can, touch up makeup and just be comfortable. On a day when you want to look good and feel good, I definitely recommend having a restroom space that allows you to do both of those things. As far as your entertainment, these options are going to be the same options that you would have at a venue. However, the thing that you need to consider with this is their power needs. When you're considering the amount of power that you need for a wedding day, you never want to depend on the power sources that you have on your property, unless they are commercial and they are dedicated to the wedding event space. So you don't want to just be plugging into a series of extension cords that plug into your house somewhere or something like that. And always, always, always have a generator backup. I have had weddings. This comes from a place of some stories where we didn't have adequate power. Weddings where I was assured that, yes, we have hosted events before and it's totally fine. We're in the middle of dancing and suddenly the music just cuts out because the breaker tripped and we were dead in the water. At this point, most of the generators the rental companies provide are diesel generators. The disadvantage of these is that they are very loud, and you'll need them in a fairly close proximity to your event space. I would actually recommend checking out like solar generators and seeing if that is an option for you. Most solar generators have some means of being charged other than solar, so that, if you're not having sunny days leading up to the wedding, you're able to charge them from an outlet in your home or something like that. But the bottom line with the power needs is do check with your vendors, see what they need, see if they provide any backup power of their own, and make sure that you have more than enough. Don't depend on any circuits on your home panels, because I have seen too many breakers trip in my day. So typically what we're looking at for a backyard wedding for shelter is a tent. Now what you want to consider with this is not only are you looking for shelter from rain, but also from wind and sun. You want to make sure that you have a fairly level spot for the tent and the tables and chairs, as well as making sure that it is a spot that's well drained in case you do have rainy weather leading up to your wedding. And this isn't a must, but something that I also like to add in is a lounge area for some soft seating and give it that a little bit of distance from the dance floor so that your guests have a space that's more quiet and comfortable for them to visit as well. I would also add in that the other points to consider are lighting, a space for you to get ready, staging space for the vendors, as well as parking, and just making sure that you have adequate ability to host your guest list. Happy planning, and I'll see you on the next one.